Good morning, everybody. My name is Utsav Tiwari, and today we are here to discuss a very important topic of social science, that is power sharing. Okay, so as we have to discuss today, a very important chapter, that is power sharing. It is from political science, right? And this particular chapter, we will start with two major flame beyond questions. The first question is what, and the second question is why. So we will start our chapter with these two major questions, that what we have to study in this chapter and why we have to study this particular chapter, right? So let us discuss what we have to study in this particular chapter, power sharing. So if you look into it, the first thing is case study. The first thing that we have to discuss is the case study of Sri Lanka and case study of Belgium, right? And after this segment of case study, we'll move to the forms of power sharing, that is our constitutional value, right? After that, we will discuss the forms of power sharing, right? In the forms of power sharing, we have four forms. We have to discuss the four forms of power sharing. The first form is horizontal power sharing, and then after we have vertical power sharing. After that, we have power sharing between different social groups, right? And at the last, we have to discuss power sharing between political parties and pressure groups, right? So this will be the flow chart, this will be the mind map of this particular chapter. If you will look into it, we'll cover in this particular way. First, we will discuss the case study, then particularly to the case study of Sri Lanka and the case study of Belgium, right? After that, we will discuss the second important aspect, that is forms of power sharing. The four major forms of power sharing mentioned in our constitution, that is horizontal power sharing, vertical power sharing between social group, power sharing between political parties and pressure groups. So this will be the flow chart, this will be the mind map of this particular chapter. Now let us start this particular chapter. So first we have discussed what we have to study in power sharing. Now the second question is why we have to study this particular chapter, why power sharing is important to us. Power sharing is a very important tool in a democracy, in a country, right? Why? Because power sharing helps to avoid the concentration of power. We don't need concentration of power in one single hand. Why we don't need concentration of power in one single hand? Because sometimes concentration of power in a one single hand leads to misuse of power, anarchy and corruption in a country. As you have already read in class 9th, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, Nazism and rise of Hitler. So as you know that during the time of French Revolution, Louis XVI is holding absolute power, right? Tsar Nicholas II is holding absolute power in Russian Revolution. Nazism, rise of Hitler, in which Adolf Hitler is having ultimate powers, right? So these are the reasons for the French Revolutions, Russian Revolution, and the Second World War. So as you know that Hitler was the reason for Second World War. On 1st of September 1939, he attacked on Poland and Second World War was started. Why? Because he was having absolute power. If it was possible in our past that power may be distributed among the various authorities, so there will be possibilities the Second World War not took place, right? So as you have seen, as you have already known, you are in your prerequisite of knowledge that Louis XVI, Tsar Nicholas II and Adolf Hitler were the reasons, and they are having absolute power. So that is why concentration of power is not good. Concentration of power leads to misuse of power as well as anarchy in the society and the situation, right? Now, there is a very famous philosopher from the West. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli said that power corrupts and absolute power corrupt absolutely. This is a very famous statement made by Machiavelli. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupt absolutely. Right? Now we have to look and we have to start this particular chapter with the case study of Sri Lanka. First, I will discuss the case study of Sri Lanka. We will look what was the power sharing arrangement in Sri Lanka. Then we will see what was the power sharing arrangement in Belgium. Right? And this way we will proceed further. So now let us start with our NCERTs. NCERTs. Okay. So what NCERT mentions is the case study of Sri Lanka and then the case study of Belgium. Now let us discuss the case study of Sri Lanka first. So for example, this is the map of Sri Lanka. For instance, let us assume this particular is a map of Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka is basically a country which is located in South Asia. Okay, in the region of South Asia. And the capital city of Sri Lanka is Sri Jayawardene Kotte, right? And who was the Prime Minister and President? So you just Google it out, you just check it out, who is the Prime Minister and President of Sri Lanka. That is your homework, right? So let us discuss the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. Now what is the meaning of ethnic composition? Ethnic composition simply means division of people on the basis of their culture and values, right? So if we will see the ethnic composition, the social composition, the social division of Sri Lanka, then we will see the 74% people, right? In 74% or in Sri Lanka there are 74% people who are Sinhala speakers, who are Sinhala speakers, okay? And who are these Sinhala speakers? These are Sinhala speakers who follow the Buddhist religion, okay? And they are following the Buddhist religion. So there are 74% people in Sri Lanka who are speaking Sinhala language. Okay. Now there are 18% people. There are around 18% people who are of Tamil origin. They are Tamilians basically in Sri Lanka only, right? And if you will bifurcate them further, so you will find that there are 13% and 5% Tamilians. Okay. There are 13% people, right, who are Sri Lankan Tamil. They are basically Sri Lankan Tamils, okay, and there are 5% people who are Indian Tamils. There are 5% people who are Indian Tamils. Now the question arises here: from where this 5% Indian Tamil come to Sri Lanka? Why they have come to Sri Lanka? Because during the time of colonial era, colonial rule, Sri Lanka was the hub of tea plantation. So for the tea plantation, manual workers are required. So many workers were sent from India to Sri Lanka, right? And all those workers who settled down in Sri Lanka, they are known as Indian Tamils, right? So as we have seen the composition, 74% Sinhala speaker, 18% Tamil speakers, right? In which 13% are Sri Lankan Tamils and 5% are Indian Tamils. Okay. So now if you will add 74 plus 18, it would be around something 92%. We are still lagging behind 8%. So who are the 8%? The 8% peoples are, if you will see, the 8% people, so these 8% peoples are Christians and Muslims living in the region of Sri Lanka. Okay, so this was the whole ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. Now, what was the tussle? What was the situation? Why there is a conflict? So you must remember that there is a conflict between Sinhala speakers and Tamil speakers. Okay, but what was the conflict? What was the reason of conflict? Because Sinhala people are having majority in their country. See, their population, around 74% population constitutes by Sinhala speakers who are Buddhist in nature, whereas 18% are Tamil. So Tamilians are minority and Sinhalas are in majority. And Sinhalas form their own government, okay? And their particular own government, what they did, they provided special rights and they favored Sinhala speakers. Okay, they provided employment, they provided education, they provided higher position in universities and all to Sinhala speakers, and that led to the conflict between Sinhalas and Tamilians, okay, because Tamilians are sidelined in all the ways. So if you will see, in 1948, it was the reason, 1948, when Sri Lanka got independence from British rule, okay. After that, whether it is a matter of employment, whether it is a matter of education, whether it is a matter of reservation, everywhere Sinhalas people are having upper hand, okay. Now in this way, Tamilian peoples are basically disdignified by the government of Sri Lanka. Later on, in 1956, the government of Sri Lanka launched OLA, Official Language Act. Okay, and under this Official Language Act, Sinhala became the official language of Sri Lanka, or the national language of Sri Lanka. That was the bone of contention between Sinhala and Tamilian people. Okay, because Tamil was not recognized as their language or as the national language of this particular region of Sri Lanka, right? So according to OLA, only Sinhala speakers got the majority, only Sinhala peoples are having the upper hand, and that was the bone of contention between Tamilians and Buddhist people, or you can say Sinhala people. Later on, in the later years, you will see the Buddhism become the official religion of Sri Lanka. Okay, so Buddhism became the official religion of Sri Lanka. It means that Buddhism is no more a secular nation. So in these ways and measures, the way Sri Lankan government was treating Tamilians were not happy out of that, right? Now if you will see, during this particular time, during all these things, Sri Lankan Tamilians, or the Tamilians living in the region of Sri Lanka, they were sidelined by the government of Sri Lanka. That's why they demanded a separate Tamil Elam. What they were demanding? They were demanding a Tamil Elam, right? Now what is the meaning of Tamil Elam? Tamil Elam simply means a separate state for Tamilian people. They wanted a separate country, and that led to the outburst between the Sinhala people and the Tamilian people. That led to the conflict, and conflict turned into the civil war. Why? Because they were demanding a separate nation from Sri Lanka, right? So this led to the civil war, or you can say conflict initially, and that conflict was converted into civil war later on. So this conflict was become more grave during the time of Sinhalas and Tamilian people. Okay, so in this way, the things had happened in Sri Lanka, right? Who were responsible for the civil war? The government of Sri Lanka. If government of Sri Lanka had shared some power with Tamilian peoples, it would not be happened, right? But this partial approach of Sri Lankan government led to all these conflict and situations. In the meantime, you have to add one more information about LTTE. Liberation Tiger of Tamil Eelam was a militant group formed in Sri Lanka, and this particular group was responsible for the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi in our country. Okay, so you have seen the case of Sri Lanka. What was the ethnic composition? What was the social composition and all, and how the things had happened, right? How the partial approach of Sri Lankan government led to the conflict between Sinhalas and Tamilian people, and ultimately it led to the civil war, which finally collapsed the whole country, their society, economy, polity, everything. Right? Now let us move to the next point, the next thing, that is the situation of Belgium. What happened in Belgium? What was the situation in Belgium? Right? So this was the case of Sri Lanka. We have seen the case of Sri Lanka. Okay. Now let us look at the second case. Now let us look at the second case. That is the case of Belgium. Okay. It is a very interesting case. The case of Belgium. So let us discuss about Belgium. Belgium is basically a country located in European continent. Okay. And the capital of Belgium is Brussels. Now let us make a map of Belgium. So this is basically a map, you have to assume. So this is the map of Belgium. So as India is divided, imaginary, we have divided India into two parts, the northern India and the southern India, right? So in this way, we can also divide this particular region of Belgium as northern Belgium and southern Belgium. So the region of northern Belgium was known as Flemish region. This region is known as Flemish region, and the second region, the southern region, was known as region of Wallonia. Okay, so this was the Flemish region and this was the region of Wallonia. In Flemish region, there were 59% people who used to speak which language? They are speaking Dutch language. Which language they are speaking? They are speaking Dutch language. In the region of Wallonia, there were 40% people, right, who were speaking French language. Which language they are speaking? They are speaking French language, right? Although at the corners of the country, there are only 1% people who are speaking German languages. Okay. Which language they are speaking? They are speaking German language. Now, who are in majority? 59% Dutch speaking people are in majority. Who are in minority? The French people and the German people are in minority. Now, if you look at the capital city of Sri Lanka, that is Brussels. So, Brussels is the capital city of Sri Lanka, Belgium, sorry. Brussels is the capital city of Belgium, right? So in Brussels, the situation was altogether different. You have seen that in country, 59% Dutch people are in majority, whereas French people and German people are in minority. But in the capital city of Belgium, the situation was altogether different, right? There were around 80% people who are French speakers, and there are 20% people who are Dutch speakers, right? So in the capital city, the situation was altogether different. 80% people were French speakers and 20% people were Dutch speakers. Now, what was the bone of contention between both the parties, between both the groups, between Dutches and French people? So basically, French people are more educated, they are more prosperous, they are more close to the government as compared to Dutch people. Although they are having majority in a country, but their dominance was not there in the region of Belgium, and that was a bone of contention between them. Always French people are having upper hand in the country, right? Why? Because they are more educated, they are more prosperous. During the time of election, French people used to give what? They used to give various funds to the government so that they can win the election. So French people are favoring the government, and when government win the election, they used to favor them back. Okay, so this was the partial approach of Belgian government, and the reason for their contention and the social tension was the French people and the prosperity of French people. So French people and Dutch people, okay, both are having some kind of tension and conflict, and that social tension and conflict was continuously escalating in Belgium. Okay, so this was the whole ethnic composition. I have told you 59% Dutch speakers, whereas 40% were French speakers, 1% were German speakers. In the capital city of Belgium, there is a city of Brussels. Okay, 80% people were French speakers and 20% were Dutch speakers. French people are having upper hand, whereas Dutch people are having minority, or you can say they are not having dominance in a country. And this was the bone of contention between both the communities, okay, that we have discussed. If you have any doubt, you can ask me directly. You just raise your hand and ask the question, okay. So this was the whole ethnic composition, ethnic scenario of Belgium. Now what next? What happened next? that particular social tension was continuously escalating. And it may be possible that any day conflict can takes place. Okay, anything, anywhere, it is possible that civil war can cause in this particular country of Belgium. Okay, so what happened? What government did? How they pacified the social tension that was escalating continuously? Okay, that we have to discuss in a meantime. So if you look into it, after looking all this situation, after looking the various social tension that was escalating at that time, the government of Belgium made major constitutional reforms, right? So what they did, they made certain constitutional reforms. Four times the constitution of Belgium was changed by the Belgian government. What were the structural changes they have made to pacify the social tension escalating in Belgium? Let us see. The first thing that they made is French speaking and Dutch speaking ministers were equalized in central government. Okay, the ministers who are French speaking and Dutch speaking, they were equalized in central government. Okay, so at the national level, at the central government, the French speaking ministers and the number of Dutch speaking ministers was equal at that time. This was the first, you can say, amendment made by the government. What was the second thing that they have made? The second thing that they have made is equalization of power between central government and state government. Okay, so this was the central government and this was the state government. Okay, so the power of central government was taken and shared to state government, right? So what was ultimate objective of it? The ultimate objective of this particular thing is that the power is shared. Now central government is no more a dominating body. Central government is state government. Both the parties or both the governments are equal in nature. Now state government would no more be act as a subordinate to central government. Okay, so there is a equalization of power between central government and state government. Now coming to the third one, that is community government. Very important it is. Okay, in the case of Belgium, that is community government. As this was the innovation of Belgian government. It is a very important and innovative thing that was introduced by Belgian government, that is community government. It is a local government basically. What happened in community government basically? So in community government, if you will see, if you will look into it, there it is a particular local government, okay, where there is a representation of all the three major communities that is living in the region of Belgium. Okay, so Dutch speakers, French speakers, and German speakers. Okay, all the three commonalities, all the three communities living in this particular country of Belgium got the representation. Okay, and this local government has the power related to language, culture, and education related issues. Okay, they can make law related to language, they can make law related to their culture, they can make law related to the education. Okay, and all these laws that could be framed by the community government would be based on consensus. Okay, consensus means consent of all. So it is a basically representation of all the three minorities or all the three communities living in the region of Belgium. So who were the communities? Dutch speakers, French speakers, and German speakers. Okay, so in this way power was shared between the communities, right? As in the case of Sri Lanka, power was not shared, government was quite staunch, whereas Belgium, the government was quite liberal in nature. So if you will see community government, okay, so in community government power was shared between Dutch, French, and German speakers, and they are having power related to make law related to the various things, right? In this way power is shared between the various communities. Just look at it. French and Dutch speaking ministers were equalized in central government. Central and state government power was equalized. Okay, community government given the representation to Dutch, French, and German speakers, right? So in this way power was shared to the various communities living in that region, and that pacified the social tension that was escalating in Belgium. And in this way the situation was handled by the Belgian government. Okay, and again the social tension that was escalating at that time was completely pacified. Once again Belgium became a happy nation and it became a model nation, a model form of governance for all over the Europe and the world, right? That's why the head of or the headquarter of European Union was installed or established at the capital city of Brussels, right? The capital city of Brussels was witnessed to establish what? To establish a different kind of international organization, that is European Union. So basically European Union is a group of various countries in Europe. It is basically international intergovernmental organization. So why it was established in Belgium? Why not in other countries? Because the way Belgium performed all the things, the way Belgium pacified and managed the whole situation was remarkable and was a model governance for rest of the Europe, right? So it is not only for textbook. We have always follow the approach of Belgium. This is a life lesson also. Don't be like Sri Lanka. You have to be like Belgium. Sri Lankan people were fundamentalist. Sri Lankan people were orthodox. Sri Lankan people were rigid. That's why their country collapsed and civil war took place. Whereas in the city of Belgium, in the case of Belgium, Belgian people were quite educated. They were liberal, right? They were flexible and they were innovative with their approach. So you always have to be innovative. You have to be flexible, right? You have to be liberal with your thought process. If you have to ingrain in your life, you have to enrich in your life. Okay, so this was the thing, this was the whole situation, this was the two case studies that we have discussed. So if you look over here, we have completed Sri Lanka, we have completed Belgium. It means we have completed our both the case studies. Now let us move to the next topic, or the last topic of this particular chapter, that is forms of power sharing. So we have to discuss vertical, horizontal, social groups, power sharing between political parties, and pressure groups. Okay, so to discuss the second part, that is forms of power sharing. Okay, so now let us discuss the forms of power sharing, or various forms of power sharing, right? So there are various forms, as you know. The first one is horizontal power sharing. Horizontal power sharing. The second one is vertical power sharing. Vertical power sharing. Okay. The third one is power sharing between various social groups. Social groups. And the last one is power sharing between political parties. Political parties and pressure groups. Political parties and pressure groups. Okay, so now let us see, now let us discuss about this particular forms of power sharing. So as you know, as you look at this particular word, horizontal power sharing, what does this horizontal power sharing means? Let us make a line. This is horizontal line. Okay, and now make a line. This is a vertical line. Okay, so by these medium, by these making lines, you can easily understand the forms of power sharing. The first form of power sharing is horizontal power sharing. Okay, so if I put the three individuals in this particular line, so now tell me, what is the rank of these personalities? Can you tell me what is the rank of this personality? No. Why? Because they are standing at the same platform. But if I'll make hierarchy here, if I'll make or sit or make a position here, then definitely you can see there is a particular hierarchy from top to bottom. But there is no such top to bottom hierarchy we have seen in horizontal power sharing. That's why horizontal power sharing is power sharing between the different organs of the government. Okay, what is horizontal power sharing? Power sharing between the different organs of the government is called horizontal power sharing. Now, what are the organs of the government? So this basically this is government, and these are the three organs of the government, that is legislature, executive, and judiciary. This is the government, and these are the three organs of the government. Okay, and this particular form of power sharing arrangement you have studied in class 9th political science chapter 5, working of institution. So working of institution discussed in very detail about this particular thing. Okay, so here what happened, here the power is separated. Okay, and this separation of power, or the theory of separation of power, that you have already known to this particular fact, that it is mentioned in history chapter 1, French Revolution. If you go to the intellectuals of France, there is a very famous French philosopher, Montesquieu. His name was Baron de Montesquieu. So Baron de Montesquieu gave this particular thing in his book, that is the Spirit of Laws. In the Spirit of Laws, he mentioned the separation of theory of power. Okay, or the separation of power, or the theory of separation of power. So basically, separation of power, or the theory of separation of power, was given by Baron de Montesquieu. Okay, so government has three organs: legislative, executive, and judiciary, through which the power is divided. I will not discuss or detail this particular topic. I'll just give you a little hint about legislature, executive, and judiciary. Legislature is a particular body or an organization who makes the law. Okay, legislature is having a prime function of making the law, whereas executive is having prime function of implementing the law at the grassroots level. Whereas judiciary having function, they are having two functions. But there are two functions for judiciary. The first function is to punish all those who breaks the law made by legislature, and the second one is to declare null and void all those laws that are unreasonable, okay, unjust in nature, made by the legislature. So judiciary can struck down all those laws made by legislature, that is, that are not reasonable or unjust in nature, whereas judiciary is having power also, that judiciary can easily eliminate, okay, or punish all those who breaks the law, right? So this was the horizontal power sharing, and in horizontal power sharing, power is shared equally. There is an equal division of power. So power is equally shared here. Okay. One more thing that I have to keep in mind, that is check and balance, doctrine of checks and balances. Okay, this is a very famous doctrine mentioned in your NCRT, that is the doctrine of check and balance. Now, what does check and balance means? Let us look at the word, keyword, check. Check means to restrict, to restrain somebody, and balance means balancing the power. Okay, so what does this organs of the government used to do? What they used to do is they used to check each other. It means they used to restrict each other. All the three organs of the government used to restrict each other so that nobody can misuse the power. Okay, and if there is no misuse of power, then definitely power would be particularly balanced, right? So this is the doctrine of check and balance, that each organ of the government used to restrain and restrict each other to misuse the power. Okay, so this was all about horizontal power sharing. What we have studied in horizontal power sharing, or in horizontal power sharing, we have discussed the division of power at the various organs of the government, the three organs, legislative, executive, judiciary, where power is divided equally, and there is a doctrine of checks and balances included in horizontal power sharing. Now let us come to the next point, that is vertical power sharing. So in vertical power sharing, the power is shared at different levels of the government. Okay, government has a different level of governance. Okay, so when the power is shared at the different levels of the government, then it is said to be vertical power sharing. So here we have central government, then we have state government, and at the last we have local government. Okay, so this is the hierarchy. Central government tends to be more powerful. Here there is no hierarchy, but here we have hierarchy, right? Central government tends to be more powerful, whereas state and government work as a subordinate to central government. Okay, and this different level of division of power, also known as federalism, that is chapter 2 political science, that we will discuss later on or in some other day. Okay, so this is central government, state government, and local government. Even in local government, there is three-tier structure. Okay, that you know as ULBs and PRIs. Okay, what does ULB means? ULB means urban local body, and PRI means Panchayati Raj institution. Okay, for urban areas, ULB is important, and for rural areas, Panchayati Raj institutions are important. Okay, and these particular thing is mentioned in our constitution chapter or part 9. Okay, part 9 and part 9A talks about this local governance body. Okay, so in this way we have discussed the vertical sharing of power. So we have discussed horizontal power sharing, we have discussed vertical power sharing. One important thing that I have to keep in mind is power is unequally shared here. How? Unequally. Unlike to the case of horizontal power sharing, where power is shared equally, in case of vertical power sharing, power is shared unequally. Why? Because we have seen a hierarchy, we have seen a vertical line, we have seen a hierarchy of central government, state government, and local government, where central government tends to be more powerful. Now coming to the next one, that is power sharing between the different social groups. Now who are the social groups? SC, ST, OBC, women's, etc. Okay? So these are the various social groups. Okay, so from the very basic stage of our nation building, we have seen that SC, ST, OBC, women are the vulnerable sections of the society. They were not having rights. Okay, in ancient India, in medieval India, and in modern India as well, right? So as to elevate their standard, right, what we have done, we have made a provision of reservation, or at the same time we have given special privileges in the form of reservation to SC, ST, OBC and women, so that they can elevate their standard of living. Okay, so that they can stand at the same platform, right? We have to provide a same platform to function for the functioning of SC, ST, OBC and women. Okay, because they are also the important section of our society, and after the participation of all these important personalities or all these important sections of society, our country will grow holistically and sustainably, right? So this is what all about social groups, or the division of power between the different social groups, right? Now coming to the next one, that is power sharing between political parties and pressure groups. Okay, now here you can see political party, here you can see pressure groups. Okay, so how power is divided between the political parties? You can see, you know, chapter 4 election. After election, political party used to win the election, they are having power to form the government and run the country, okay, or to administer the country. But is only winning party is having power? No, it is not like that. Even all those parties, those who lost the election or those who lose the election, they are also having power. Which power they are having? They are having power of opposition, right? Right now, as you know, that there is a particular party having a power of opposition. Okay, and what is the function of opposition, or what is the power of opposition? To make constructive criticism of the government. They used to make criticism but in a constructive way, so that government can ameliorate their functioning or their gray areas. Okay, so this is what all about for political parties. Now, second thing is about pressure groups. Who are pressure groups? Pressure group basically a group of people having similar ideology. It is a homogeneous group having similar ideology, having similar objective, and having similar economic interest. Okay, those who used to make pressure on government by making strikes, by making protests and all, so that government can make law in their favor. Right? Who are the examples of pressure groups? So as you know, the example of pressure groups are AITUC, All India Trade Union Congress. Okay, All India Kisan Mahasabha, AIKM, right? So All India Trade Union Congress, All India Kisan Mahasabha. Okay, so All India Trade Union Congress means it is a group of traders. Okay, as you know, there is a Chamber of Commerce and also known as FICCI. Okay, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So it is a pressure group of industrialists. It is a pressure group of farmers. It is a pressure group of traders, merchants, and businessmen. Okay, so what they used to do? They used to make pressure on the government to make certain laws and policies in their favor. So in this way, we have completed our chapter. Let us discuss what we have discussed till now. So first, we have started this particular chapter, the case study of Sri Lanka and case study of Belgium. And after studying all these things, we came to know this particular thing, that why power sharing is important. Okay, Sri Lanka was completely collapsed after civil war, whereas Belgium made certain amendments and their country thrived and flourished happily. Right after that, we have seen the forms of power sharing in our country and around the world. That is horizontal power sharing, where we have discussed the organs of the government; vertical power sharing, the different levels of the government; then different social groups, that is SC, ST, OBC, women in the form of reservation, they are having power; and the last, political party and pressure groups. So in pressure groups, we have seen All India Trade Union Congress, AIKM, and FICCI. Okay, so in this way we have completed our chapter. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Okay, thank you.